I've had a lot of teachers, privately speak to me about, feeling comfortably going back into the classroom. Some have even, been wanting to return, but kind of afraid to speak up. And, there's a lot of backlash out there for the teachers who do. And that's always a concern for a lot of teachers. They don't want to be ostracized by peers. You might be reprimanded by, somebody above you. Those kind of things has kind of prevented a lot of teachers. So, I do wish more teachers would, find their voice. I understand why it's been hard, but, it's been a year now and there's just been so much evidence. I really kind of feel it's, time to really, be speaking out for a full return to classroom.
Welcome to Teachers for Open Schools. I am Stephanie, a teacher for Open School and New York City educator, and I have here today with us Ryan Hooper, a Baltimore teacher for Open Schools, to share his story. What's going on, Ryan?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for all the work you've been doing. I know when Eleni and I and a few of the others started Teachers for Open Schools, I found you and you've already been going super hard. So just tell us a little bit more about you and your professional background and what you've been doing for the open schools movement.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a high school social studies teacher in Baltimore City Public Schools here in Maryland. And so I teach special education students at an alternative high school. So very small class sizes. And my students in particular, I've seen, firsthand what kind of devastating effects school closures has had, starting since last spring. And seeing that and being in a very small classroom anyways, I knew that it was possible to reopen safely my classroom. And so ever since the start of last early summer, it's been a priority for me to try to advocate to speak up about the need to reopen schools.
And so did you find that other teachers were speaking out? Do you have some allies? I find oftentimes I do feel like the lone voice. It seems like now there's more steam picking up, but how has your experience been?
In the beginning, I believe we were all pretty hesitant about last spring. We have this deadly virus that's sweeping our nation that we don't know a whole lot about. But as the evidence became, abundantly clear that it was safe to reopen schools, that's kind of when I felt the need to, start speaking out. And as far as allies go, I've had a lot of teachers, privately speak to me about, feeling comfortably going back into the classroom. Some have even, been wanting to return, but kind of afraid to speak up. And, there's a lot of backlash out there for the teachers who do. And that's always a concern for a lot of teachers. They don't want to be ostracized by peers. You might be reprimanded by, somebody above you. Those kind of things has kind of prevented a lot of teachers. So, I do wish more teachers would, find their voice. I understand why it's been hard, but, it's been a year now and there's just been so much evidence. I really kind of feel it's, time to really, be speaking out for a full return to classroom. And it's for the benefit of teachers too. I always tell them as well.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get more into that. And so just tell us a little bit about what the situation is in Baltimore specifically, where you started, where you're at now, like what are some of the things that you're really pushing for to, because it seems like they're making us fight for every little inch of our schools back.
Absolutely. And Maryland, in general, they have the little 50-state school tracker, and Maryland has been at the bottom for a percentage of schools that have been reopened in person. So we've very much so been lagging behind the majority of states, and that's been particularly frustrating for myself. Here in Baltimore, I, as a special education teacher, they did prioritize us and early childhood teachers and ESL teachers to return in person. So I've been hybrid for the past since November, my classroom, and that's something that starting last summer, I wrote an op-ed in the local Baltimore Sun newspaper to ask for hybrid and So we did get that met. And it's been a great experience for having my students return in person for the past couple of months. But now, we're still just, it's very, very slowly moving, and not enough students and families are being offered, full in person. It's, all they're being offered is, hybrid a couple days a week. And moving forward, we really love for the fourth quarter. There's still the fourth quarter, and then making a definitive answer that by next fall we'll have 5 days full in-person opportunities for students is what we're looking forward to.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's even a question that schools would not open full time as we were, circa 2019, not too long ago. So I see all the work that you're doing out there. You're definitely one of the people who inspired me to really start to. I had been involved in different actions, but it was mostly like a parent-led thing, but really step up as a teacher and be like, this is my position as a teacher. So thank you for that, for sure. And so I wanted to go back to something you had said earlier about how it's good for teachers to go back. Do you guys have a union dynamic going on out there?
Yes. So we've, just like many urban districts, especially on the East Coast, our teachers union is extremely strong. And they've been, working and organizing behind the scenes against school reopenings since the summer. They, have been very effective in their messaging at, keeping schools closed. They've been effective at persuading politicians in the state to come out against school closures. They have politicians that attend their keep schools closed rallies, all sorts of things. So the very strong teachers union that it's extremely hard to navigate against, even if, in particular, my school district, which I believe we have a very strong, dynamic superintendent who really does want kids to be back in school, and it's hard for even that to to achieve that goal when you have a teachers union that is so adamantly against, and they have such maximalist and unserious demands that are just almost impossible to meet.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I'm not against unions. I just don't think that they're being reasonable. And right now it might seem, oh, we have power, so we're going to get some things that we feel like we've been fighting for forever. But long term, that's not a good look, especially like on the back of a pandemic. You're holding kids hostage essentially, for political ends. And I don't know, how do you see so going back to the argument, like, why is it good for teachers to really get behind open schools?
Yes, I think the first obvious thing is so many teachers, no matter what, if you're in an urban or a rural or an affluent or a less privileged district, so many teachers have seen students and families struggling. And so it goes back to the reason of why we signed up in the first place is to help our students. And if they're not succeeding, I think that's the first thing. Another thing, just like speaking as a teacher for ourselves, it's been rejuvenating for me as an educator to return in person, seeing the kids face to face, building relationships. There's so many things you can't do over Zoom that as a teacher, like that's what we signed up to do. And also, a point that's I don't think it's received enough attention yet, but hybrid instruction is extremely difficult as a teacher. And many teachers, they're more hesitant about just teaching hybrid because I have very small class sizes and it's very difficult and taxing for myself. So I can imagine for majority of educators with large class sizes, it's very difficult teaching to 10, 15 students in person and then 10, 15 students on the computer, and it's ineffective as well. And so those kind of reasons, it makes your life easier to return back to 5 days a week in person only.
Right. Yeah. And in some ways, I feel like the union's almost been trying to make it as unpalatable as possible. So it's like, you're like, do I really want to deal with the really not best practice and also sometimes chaotic because you're going these days and not these days? aspect of hybrid, or do I just want to always know my kid is going to be remote? I send them to this place, or I think that's part. So in some ways, it's like, okay, at least we're back in the building. In other ways, it can have these other consequences. But it does, like you said, you were referring to the Burbio tracker before about how Maryland's on the bottom. I saw the update that came out yesterday. Only 15% of schools are still fully remote. At 55% have hybrid. So we're getting there slowly but surely.
Mhm.
And so what any words of advice, inspiration can you leave for teachers and parents out there um, about, continuing on the fight or why they should join us?
Yes. So I always encourage people to speak up. I really do believe that there is an overwhelming amount of science, data, and medical experts who are all on the side of reopening schools. I also like to, really think about these times, and there's going to be a day in the future where I believe that history is going to look back on this period, and future generations are going to judge, and they're going to choose sides on the school reopening debates. And if you want to be on the right side of history, I would strongly urge you to consider supporting the science and the truth, all of which suggests that schools should be open.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. And if people want to reach out to you, get connected, your preferred platform is Twitter. Where else can they find you?
Mainly on Twitter. RY Hooper is my Twitter, and
Awesome. And we'll put that in the description down below so you guys can just click on that. Definitely, Ryan, like I said, was an inspiration to me. So if you're just looking for that little extra something to help you have that courage to speak out, definitely you can reach out to him. You can reach out to me or anybody at Teachers for Open Schools. So keep fighting the good fight, and we'll see you guys next time.
actually, thank you for having me, Stephanie.